Welcome back to Ireland AM. Our next segment contains conversation around topics that some viewers might find distressing. So please continue to watch with care.
Nearly 1 in 3 Irish people across all ages have experienced child sexual violence, either in person or online, in their lifetime.
We're joined now by Jack Fitzgerald to discuss his experience with childhood sexual abuse. Jack, you're very welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming in. So take us back and tell us, what kind of a child were you? What was your family set up like?
Well, I'm quite literally 1 in 4, so I have 3 siblings, so that number kind of rings quite through, I guess, in this case. I'm the middle, but unfortunately I don't have much memories of before the abuse, so my earliest memories are the abuse, so my brain has blocked that, unfortunately. So when I look back, that's unfortunately where it starts for me. So those are my earliest memories of the actual abuse.
So this is your this is you just protecting yourself.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
what was? Can you tell us about the family setup? Is in like what part of the country were you in?
I'm from Castlegregory in County Kerry, so it's a nice small village right by the sea. So aesthetically very lovely, but obviously my experience there was quite difficult. I love going back there. I love the ocean. I love the mountains. Obviously what I'm doing, but it makes being there a little bit more difficult. Unfortunately, yeah.
So when the abuse, you were so young when the abuse started. And I know you've chosen not to identify this person, of course, but do you remember anything about how it evolved, or we hear a lot about grooming? Was that your situation?
Yeah, I think it was kind of much later in life that I realised how serious the grooming had been and the psychological effect that it had on me throughout the rest of my life. I think when we think about abuse, particularly sexual abuse, it's quite difficult to think about, and we think about the physical aspect of it, but the psychological side of it is what I found the hardest to come out of. It's the things that you're told at the youngest of ages, that no one's going to help you, no one cares, no one's going to support you. It's isolating you from everyone around this so that you can't go to anyone because you've been told, and you believe it because you have no reason not to. You're not shown any other thing to push against it. So when he told me that no one would help me, I believed him. When he told me that I wouldn't be supported, I believed him. When he told me that people wouldn't stop it, I believed him. And that allowed the abuse to go on for 5 more years. 5 years.
So the abuse of trust and the actual psychological torture that you went through, because like you said, it's torture as well.
It is torture,
torturing a child.
Yeah.
And how do you begin to even address that?
For me, it came to the breaking point. So I had really struggled with my mental health through my teenage years. So by the age of 19, I had attempted to take my life 3 times. So
what age were you when you actually started? You were very young when you started harming yourself, right?
9, yeah. So I had no name for it. I didn't know what it was, but I had started kind of, mutilating my own body in a way to cope, and that carried on until I was about 23. So it was, even when I realised, I was like, this is not something I want to do anymore. It was so ingrained as to how I coped that it was almost like an addiction. It was very, very difficult to let it go, and I felt very attached to it.
I like reading about other people who've been through what you've been through. The abuser generally tries to turn it on the person who's being abused by saying, this is actually your fault.
100%, yeah.
Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, I got a lot of that as well. I was a very flamboyant child. I am gay. But as a child, I was picked on for that, and he used that against me very often. So he was like, they're already calling you gay. So he was using things that were real and happening in my life and manipulating it into keeping me silent and keeping me separated from everyone else.
Because we mentioned that a lot of the time, amnesia, you block up memories to keep, to protect yourself. At what point in your life did you know you had to address these, and how did that come about? How did it kind of erupt to the surface?
When I was struggling with my mental health, I truly did not know what was happening. I was so confused. I would sit in front of doctors and be like, I don't know why this is happening. I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why I'm, harming myself. I don't understand why I tried to take my life. And I truly didn't. And it wasn't until I got to my 20s, and I guess maybe it was a bit of the further away I was getting from it, I was able to kind of, let the box open a little bit of what had happened. And then it was a couple of years of trying to accept it just for me. I hadn't told anyone at this point either. And then I got to the point where things started to get really, really bad again. And I was like, if I don't do something, I don't think I'm going to be here much longer. And, when you're in a position where you have tried to take your life 3 times, you're aware that you can get there. And it's scary. And I was living in fear of it.
Yeah. How did you go about that? Did you go into therapy? Did you talk to somebody? Did you, a lot of people go online to try and research these things, unfortunately?
I think I kind of gently started to look at things online to kind of see signs and symptoms and things like that. And then a friend of mine who I had disclosed, who showed me 1 in 4, and I had never heard of them before. So it took a couple of weeks and a few phone calls and hanging up because I just wasn't able to do it, but eventually got through to them. And then that's where the therapy started.
Okay.
And did that help you with your memories of it, or?
Well, I kind of had to intentionally bring it back, and it was hard. Like when we would go to talk about it, my jaw would lock, and my back would seize, and my muscles would spasm. My body was, you're reliving it, so your body is getting ready to, as if it's happening in real time. So that was incredibly difficult, and it took a couple of months before we were ever actually able to talk about the abuse itself. So it was quite a long period of like when I had accepted it, I knew I had to work through it. I got to 1 in 4. And I was still like, I just physically cannot say these words. I can't tell you what's happening, even though I wanted to. My whole body was fighting against it.
When you eventually did speak, was it in any way a relief, or did it re-traumatise you?
There was definitely a bit of re-traumatising it, and I think it's, unfortunately, like a necessary evil. Like you kind of have to go back to it to understand yourself. But what it has done is allowed me to finally understand so many parts of myself and work on them, except some probably will never change. But I don't live in this like bubble of confusion anymore as to why my life is so difficult or why I'm struggling with these things. I have names, so I live with complex PTSD. So I'm able to work with that now. So when things start to happen, I'm able to communicate to the people around me that I'm having flashbacks. The night terrors have started. And honestly, there's not much people can do for you when that's happening, but not having to lie about it, which is what I would have done for years. And I would think I'm having a bad day, when in reality I had spent the whole night, sweating through my sheets, having flashbacks, screaming and shouting in my sleep and waking up from that and waking up into that stress and then going to work and being like, no, I'm fine. Whereas I don't do that anymore. I'll just be like, here, I'm having a really bad day and this is why. And now obviously everyone knows why. So I don't have to go in depth into anything, but that freedom to speak about it has just alleviated so much stress and pressure off me.
Can I ask you, when you reached that point where you were seeking help, and there was a nurse who said, what happened in your childhood, can hurt you into adulthood. When you went to tell your family what had been going on, how did they react? I'm just thinking, as a parent, if I was to hear something like that, I would want to kill.
Yeah, there is. So I would push against that quite a bit. So I think sometimes what can happen is there can be so much, and in some cases there needs to be, but there can be so much anger levelled at the perpetrator, which I totally understand. I have it also. But oftentimes what it does is all of the energy goes that way.
Yeah.
So you are left sitting there on your own. And you're like, everyone's so mad at the person. And you're like, I'm actually still really struggling and I really need help and support here. So anger is the easier emotion to go to than to look at the person and go, we need to help you.
Oh, yeah.
We need to stand by you. So there is anger there. I have anger there. I don't think that anger ever leaves. I often get asked about forgiveness and stuff. It's not something I'm working towards. I don't plan on forgiving. I don't feel the need to. I feel like I'm going to keep working on myself. But yeah, with the anger, I'm like, everyone has it. I totally understand it. But I think where I'm coming from at is that we need to focus more on supporting our survivors. Because getting to that point of telling anyone, never mind your family or the people closest to you, is an incredibly difficult thing. And I worked in therapy for a very long time just to have that conversation.
Yeah, naturally. That's what you want to do. You want to hug your child. You want to support your child. But that anger will come.
Of course, yeah.
You don't talk about this person because the impression I'm getting is that you don't want that person to have any of your energy or have any power.
Yeah, I think, again, like this, I'm coming at this from a survivor who has been fortunate enough to get to 1 in 4. I truly believe that if we can bring survivors together, there is so many of us. I have been talking about this for about 2 years. I posted a video about 2.5 years ago, my original video, where I just disclosed that this had happened. I had been to 1 in 4 and this is where I am now. I didn't say much else. The amount of people, like hundreds of people that I've grown up with, people within my own larger family, people in my community, strangers, people that I would have went to school with, their parents, people messaging me about their grandparents. And I realised, it really is 1 in 4. And if we were able to speak out, if we were able to comfortably come forward and say, this is what has happened to me, and I need help and support, and that help and support is there, but many people don't know it exists. And it's that silence, it's that shame, it's that blame that keeps us all separate. And while we're separate, it's hard to have that power to move things forward. And it can sometimes feel like with this, we're stuck in a little bit of a cycle of hearing a story, feeling sad, a report comes out, we're all shocked, and then we move on. But it would be lovely to try and get some movement in this.
Just to actually band together as survivors, because I know you're not recognising who your abuser was. You're not going down the legal route or anything other person. But you're not the only person. I know several people who are just like you, because the statistics are absolutely terrifying. So by raising money for 1 in 4, I mean, the counselling services that they provided for you could be spread to so many other people.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what are you doing for them now? Because it's a physically gruelling task you have ahead of you.
So I'm climbing the 7 highest mountains in Ireland in 7 days. I'm starting this Monday coming, so we'll do 1 mountain a day from Monday to Sunday. So 7 mountains, 7 days.
Okay, where are you starting, where are you finishing?
I'm starting down in Kerry and I'm finishing in Kerry. So I'm starting on Mount Brandon, which is about 20 minutes from where I'm from. So 3 mountains in Kerry, Tipperary, Wicklow, and then back to Kerry to finish on Carrauntoohil.
Yeah, Carrauntoohil, the highest mountain in Ireland, yeah. And I suppose that's kind of illustrative of how far you've climbed yourself as well, because from a person who tried to take his own life several times, not knowing why, and breaking that barrier to finding out why and facing all these demons. And there's going to be people watching this who are looking at you going, I can get through this myself. So from when you started to address this to where you are now, very difficult journey. But I mean, there is help there.
There absolutely is help there, and I think what I've done as well with the 7 hikes on the last day, so Sunday, May 25th, we've organised nationwide hikes so people can get involved. So I guess what I would ask people to do now who are watching, particularly maybe if you're not a survivor, because a lot of survivors, myself included, if this was 5 years ago, I would have stayed 10 miles away from this because it would have been too difficult. So what I'm asking people to do is come out on Sunday, May 25th. We've organised Mountains of Change. So we have guided hikes happening all over the country. You can set up your own hike. You can hike as an individual. You can join a hiking group. And I just think that show of support for survivors isn't really something that we've had on a nationwide scale. And it's trying to communicate the message that I think people may be watching me, but it's not awful what happened to him. I'm like, it is, but it has happened in your families. It has happened in your communities. It has happened to your co-workers. And many of them may go through life completely silent and carrying that on their own. And I think with this, we have an opportunity to be like, no, people do support you, and it's fighting against what we were told as kids, that no one will help you, no one will support you. I'm like, I still battle that to this day.
So even if you see somebody, let's say someone, like if I go out and do this, even though I don't personally know anybody, there might be someone in my life who'll see me doing this and go, oh my God, I can reach out, I can talk to somebody about this.
Yeah, what I tried to do was I was like, what could have helped me, 10 years ago to maybe move this forward or to get me into therapy a little bit earlier to save me the years of despair, but would have been people showing up and supporting survivors in whatever that looked like. And for now, for a hike, a walk, a cliff walk, I don't mind what it is, don't be too stressed on the mountains, but it's the showing up and supporting us that would mean the world.
Absolutely amazing. And of course, if people wanted to help you in your cause, how do they do so?
So mountainsofchange.ie, that's the site, so you can register there, and if you can't get involved and you select to donate, you can do that there, or all of the information's on my Instagram as well, so I'll be going through that.
Jack,
good luck.
Fitzgerald, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been very, very an enlightening thing talking.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.